Today, we're talking about the worst cleaning advice out there and why it doesn't actually work, what it does instead, and what I do that finally makes sense and that you can do too. Vinegar on everything. If you spend any time in cleaning communities online, you will encounter vinegar evangelists. People who use it on every surface in their home with the conviction of someone who has found the one true answer. Vinegar is natural, it's cheap, it's effective, and it will absolutely ruin your granite countertops. So 3 out of 4 isn't really that bad. But vinegar is acidic, and the acid is actually what makes it useful on cleaning a lot of surfaces, but also really destructive on others, like natural stone, wood, granite, marble, travertine. Those have sealants that protect them. Not necessarily the wood, I kind of threw that in there. Anyway, vinegar breaks down the sealant and it causes dull etching that you can't reverse. The surface doesn't look dirty, it just looks sad permanently. I used vinegar on my granite a couple of times before I thought to actually research it, and I'm glad I did. What I realized is I had used it just mixed with water just a couple times, so hopefully there wasn't any serious damage. But I want to be clear, I was one enthusiastic cleaning session away from very expensive regret. Vinegar doesn't disinfect the way most people think. It actually has some antimicrobial properties, but it's not a substitute for actual disinfectant. And half of the internet just swears by it. Half of the internet is slowly etching their countertops and calling their surfaces clean when they aren't. pH neutral stone cleaner for granite and marble. Warm water, a small amount of dish soap for daily wipe downs. You can also reseal your granite annually, and you can save the vinegar for the things that it's actually good for, which is certain glass surfaces, some appliances, and salad dressing. Barkeeper's friend on the bathtub. Now, Barkeeper's friend is so good. I love it on the right surfaces, but on the wrong surfaces, it leaves something behind that no amount of cleaning will fix. Specifically, scratches. Specifically, on my bathtub. And they're permanent because it's abrasive on acrylic and other soft materials. And the lesson here, it's not that Barkeeper's friend is bad advice, it's that no cleaning product is universal and it's worth it to do your research. So here's what to do instead. Before using any new cleaner on any surface, check what your surface actually is made of and whether the product is safe for it. You will not regret putting that research in before using the new product. It is definitely worth more than the confidence of just going for it, because I know my bathtub kind of needs to be replaced. I'm not sure we'll do that, but yeah. First, let's talk about the advice that just doesn't work. And these ones aren't necessarily going to damage your surfaces. They'll just waste your time, waste your money, and leave you wondering why the house still doesn't feel clean. One of them is that hot water kills germs. This one sounds completely reasonable. Hot water is hot. Heat kills germs, therefore hot water kills germs. The logic tracks until you look at the actual numbers. Water needs to reach 130 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit and be held at that temperature for several minutes to actually kill germs. Your hot tap water is not doing that. It is warm, it might be hot, and it feels like it's doing something. It's not sanitizing anything. But here's the part worth paying attention to. Now, if you have children, sometimes people think, I will just set my hot water temperature high enough to actually kill germs on contact. That would make your tap water very dangerous, because scald burns are the #1 cause of burn injuries in children under 4. About 65% of hospitalized pediatric burns are scald burns. And in the emergency department, I saw some of these come in and they are not pleasant. So using tap water to sanitize is either ineffective because it doesn't get hot enough, or if you manage to get it hot enough, it's a safety hazard. 2 for the price of 1. What to actually do instead? Use a real disinfectant with appropriate dwell time. So you spray it and then you let it sit for the time specified on the label, and then you wipe. Now, the dwell time is doing the work. And that is something that we really need to be aware of, is like read the bottle, because who knew? Also, who knew that you should read the bottle on your hair product anyway? So what we realize is that we need to let it sit because it doesn't work right after you spray it. It's kind of like taking a vitamin, one vitamin, and then just throwing the rest of them away. It takes time to compound. More cleaner equals a cleaner surface. More is more, right? If a little cleans well, a lot cleans better. That is the kind of logic that sounds reasonable and completely wrong. Years ago, I was visiting a friend. Her floor was so sticky, and I mean, she was practically a child. She was like 19. And when she would go to clean it, she would spray floor cleaner on it, like pour it out of the bottle, and then mop, and then walk on it, and then do it again, and was like, I don't know why it never works. Not realizing that you need to rinse it off because using more product than recommended leaves sticky residue on your surfaces. And I can still hear the like sound when you lift up your shoes. And sticky residue attracts dirt. So you clean with too much product, the surface looks clean, and then it gets dirty faster than it should because you've essentially laid out a welcome mat for the next round of grime. You're not cleaning harder, you're setting up the next mess. What to do instead? Use the recommended amount. Again, we're reading the label, and always use the right amount. Less product, more dwell time, better results, cheaper, and if the surface isn't coming clean with the right amount of product, the answer is either a longer dwell time or a different product, not more of the same. Air fresheners for removing odors. In my early 20s, I had an apartment and a car, and I kept both of them generously supplied with air freshener, specifically odor removers like Febreze. I sprayed with confidence. I genuinely believed it was eliminating the odors. I thought the spray was somehow trapping the smell and neutralizing it. It was not doing that. Air fresheners mask odors, and the source is still there, completely intact, just wearing a chemical disguise and waiting for the spray to wear off, which it always does, and then the smell is back. Slightly confused about what just happened, but otherwise unchanged. We have collectively decided that if we can't smell anything, it isn't there anymore. This is not how smell works. This is not how anything works, but it's very convenient in the moment. What to do instead? Find the source and eliminate it. Now, this sounds obvious, and somehow this is a step that a lot of us skip, and I have made that mistake before. We want to clean the actual thing that smells. Once you clean it, baking soda absorbs odors in enclosed spaces like fridges and closets. Proper ventilation moves stale air out, and if something smells and you can't find the source, that is information worth investigating rather than covering up. Mystery smells are no joke. Using Dawn dish soap on everything. Now, TikTok has done many things for the cleaning world, sure, but this is not one of its better contributions. Some people were saying that Dawn is just good for everything. It is an excellent dish soap. It's a great degreaser, and it's specially formatted for that. It is not formatted for floors, carpets, upholstery, formulated I should say, or for the 17 other surfaces that TikTok has suggested using it on. On hard floors, it leaves residue that makes them sticky and attracts dirt, which we know is a bad thing. On carpets, it can really be difficult to rinse out, and on upholstery, it can cause water staining and damage certain fabrics. Just because something seems gentle and effective does not mean that it is universal. Dawn stays in the kitchen. What to do instead? Use surface-specific cleaners. They exist for a reason. A floor cleaner is formulated for floors. Upholstery cleaners are formulated for upholstery. The specificity is the point. We don't want to mess this up. The advice that seems good but isn't. These are the sneaky ones, and they sound completely reasonable, and they might even feel productive in the moment, but they are slowly undermining any chance of sustainable cleaning routine. And the first would be deep cleaning the whole house once a week. Now, this advice is everywhere, and it sounds responsible. It certainly sounds better than the in 1 hour, but It involves blocking off a Saturday, tackling everything, starting the week fresh, which sounds good. In theory, it's a solid plan. But in practice, it's exhausting, it's unsustainable, and it is surprisingly fragile. One busy Saturday then becomes two, two becomes a month, and now the house is genuinely behind. The routine has completely collapsed because the free Saturday is a mythical creature. People speak of it. Nobody has really seen one. It's always next weekend. And then the other thing is, it kind of makes you dread the weekend. Who wants that? The deeper problem is that once weekly deep clean, it's a restoration Saturday. It's trying to recover. You're letting things deteriorate all week and then you're fixing them all at once. Maintenance is a completely different approach and a far more sustainable one. Small, daily habits that prevent the need for heroic weekly cleaning sessions. And I will get into how to do that in a bit. But the house never gets bad enough to require a full day of recovery. What to do instead? Daily non-negotiables that take 30 minutes or less. I love a kitchen reset every evening. A quick tidy before bed. These are small, consistent actions that keep the house at a baseline that never requires a full Saturday intervention. I actually even do a quick morning sweep too, and I find that very helpful. Clean your whole house in an hour. Now, this one does work if you have a tiny house or like an apartment. It also works beautifully on camera. The time lapse, the satisfying before and after, the sense of accomplishment, and then you try to do it in your actual house and you realize that 1 hour of speed cleaning means skipping the things that actually need attention in favor of the things that look good on camera. Now, if you can clean your whole house in an hour because of the size, kudos to you, I think that's great. But for people with larger houses or more stuff, which should be decluttered, but still, surface clean is not the same as actually clean. A quickly wiped counter looks clean, but the buildup in the corners, the residue on the backsplash, the inside of the microwave, those don't make it into the 1 hour version, and they don't stop existing just because the camera isn't on them. What to do instead? Realistic time expectations per task. So a proper bathroom clean, it does take time, not usually that much time. Actually, I prefer the bathroom because I feel like it's the fastest, but give it the time that it needs. Speed has its place in maintenance cleaning, but it does not have a place in actual deep cleaning. Take your time, put in some AirPods, listen to a podcast, try to enjoy it. Clean when you're motivated. This is the advice that sounds like self-compassion, and it functions in a very polite way of never cleaning at all. Because motivation is wonderful when she bothers showing up. She also has a completely unpredictable schedule. She takes extended leaves of absence. She goes to Spain without notice, and she has never once arrived specifically because the bathroom needs cleaning. So waiting for motivation means that the house gets cleaned thoroughly a couple times a year during the brief windows when all of a sudden you're feeling invigorated, everything aligns perfectly, and then you feel guilty the remaining 48 weeks of the year. Here's what to do instead. We want to do systems over motivation. A simple, consistent routine that runs whether you feel like it or not. It's like how you brush your teeth in the morning. It's just a part of your routine. You normally won't forget to do it. Somehow teenagers forget to put on deodorant. I guess they haven't built that routine yet. We're not doing it not because we don't have the discipline, that we're not virtuous in some way, but the system is what helps you on your worst day. It's infinitely more valuable than the one that only works on your best day. Here's what I do now. Now, my friend Ariel, you might know her as That Awkward Mom. She took a collection of cleaning routines. She refined them over like a year. She tested them in real life for a while and built something that actually works. I remember her doing this whole process and she was very thorough. And it wasn't for a cleaning influencer with a camera crew and a spotless home, but for real people with real lives, with kids, with husbands, with dogs that get sick. And I use her routine and I think it's great. Here's the overview. The daily non-negotiable. So you're gonna wipe the shower down while you're in it. It takes 30 seconds and it prevents the buildup that makes shower cleaning such an ordeal. Empty the dishwasher first thing in the morning so dishes have somewhere to go all day. Wash dishes after every meal, or at least deal with them. 10-minute nightly kitchen reset, counters, sink, stovetop, table. 10-minute nightly tidy of the main living areas, if that, and that's it. It might be more like 30 minutes on a slow day, but probably a lot less on a fast day. The weekly tidy tango, which I really like. So it's 5 10-minute tasks. Tidy, dust, bathrooms, vacuum, and mop. About 50 minutes total. And it gets the main areas of the house company ready without perfectionism and without consuming your entire weekend. It ends with a 2-minute dance break, which is either the best part or the most important part, depending on how the week went. And then there's the Revive 25. Once a week, one zone gets 25 minutes of actual deep cleaning attention. 6 rotating zones: kitchen and dining, bathrooms, bedrooms, living room, entry and laundry, and 1 extra room. The things that actually need deep attention, like baseboards or light fixtures inside the fridge, get done on a rotating schedule. So everything gets addressed eventually. Nothing's getting ignored indefinitely, and it never takes over your life because 25 minutes is 25 minutes and then you're done. And I've linked Ariel's full routine below, and you can watch a video here where I go over it because it is so good. I hope something great happens for you today. Please like, subscribe, give us a hype, stay tidy and mighty. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.